Welcome back to Speak More Fluently. Today we're diving into something really interesting in English, something that can, well, really polish your speaking. We're going to explore how certain words just seem to pair up naturally, the combinations native speakers use, without really thinking about it.
Exactly.
And understanding these partnerships, it's not just about learning more words, right? It feels like it's key to sounding, more fluent, more confident.
It absolutely is. It unlocks that next level.
So stick with us because you'll probably start hearing English a bit differently. You might even be surprised why some combinations sound so right and others just, they feel a bit off.
That's a great way to put it. It's almost like learning the secret handshakes of the language.
Huh. I like that.
Knowing the individual words is definitely step one. But knowing how they naturally, gravitate towards each other, that's what makes your English sound truly authentic.
Okay, so these natural pairings.
Yeah.
Is there a specific name for them? Or are we just talking about words that often go together?
Well, yeah, there is a term. Linguists call them collocations.
Collocations, okay.
Think of it simply as words that frequently hang out together. You hear make progress, right? Or strong coffee.
All the time.
Native speakers use these combinations almost instinctively. It just flows.
So it's not always just about what makes logical sense if you break it down.
Exactly that. I mean, the meaning of strong coffee is pretty clear.
Yeah.
But why do we typically say strong and not, powerful coffee? Both words kind of describe intensity, don't they?
They do, yeah. I wouldn't usually say powerful coffee.
Right. It's just that strong coffee is the established, the conventional pairing. It's how the language has sort of settled over time.
Right.
And this is different from idioms, by the way. With idioms, the meaning of the whole phrase is figurative. It's not obvious just from the individual words. Collocations are usually more transparent.
That distinction's really useful. Idioms versus collocations.
Got it. So how does knowing these collocations actually, boost fluency? What's the mechanism there? Well, there are a few key reasons. Firstly, using collocations really streamlines your speaking.
Streamline?
Yeah, they work almost like ready-made chunks of language. They pop into your head as a single unit.
Oh.
This cuts down on hesitation. Those filler words like and because you're not trying to build every single phrase from scratch, word by painful word.
So it's like grabbing pre-assembled Lego blocks instead of finding each individual brick every time.
That's a perfect analogy, precisely. Secondly, when you recognize collocations when you're listening or reading, your comprehension gets a real boost too.
How so?
Because these familiar patterns act like little signposts. They help you anticipate what might come next, and you grasp the overall meaning much more quickly and easily.
Right, like hearing a familiar tune. You know where it's going.
Exactly. It just clicks faster.
I can definitely see how that would speed things up, yeah.
And thirdly, and this is, I think, a really big one for a lot of learners, using these natural word partnerships genuinely builds confidence. When you know you're using English in a way that sounds natural, the way native speakers use it, you just feel more sure. You worry less.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It helps you move away from that feeling of constantly, translating everything in your head.
That confidence factor is huge, definitely. So what kinds of these word partnerships are we actually talking about? Is it mainly just adjectives describing nouns like strong coffee?
Oh, not at all. It covers a whole range of combinations. A really common type is verb plus noun.
Okay.
Like catch a cold. You wouldn't usually say you take a cold, would you?
No, catch a cold, yeah.
Or make an effort. We say that instead of say do an effort.
Right. Do an effort sounds a bit clunky.
It does. And we've already mentioned adjective plus noun like heavy rain or strong coffee. Those are very common.
Got it.
Then you also have noun plus noun combinations. This is where two nouns frequently pair up to create a specific idea or meaning.
Like what?
Think of bread and butter. People often use that to talk about their main source of income, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's my bread and butter.
Exactly. Or maybe something like a surge of anger. That pairing just perfectly captures that sudden rush of emotion.
It's interesting how those noun pairs can sometimes take on a meaning that's a bit more than just the two words added together.
Absolutely, they often do. We also see adverb plus adjective combinations quite a lot.
Okay.
Like highly likely or perfectly clear.
Yeah. Instead of just very likely or very clear.
Right. They often sound more precise, more natural, and let's not forget verb plus adverb. Things like whisper softly or respond promptly.
Okay.
All of these are just natural, common ways English speakers combine words without even thinking too hard about it.
This breakdown is really clarifying the different types. But, okay, how can someone actually learn to use these effectively? I mean, you can't just memorize a giant list, can you?
You're absolutely right. There isn't one single master list, and memorizing lists isn't usually the best way anyway. That's why being an active learner is so crucial here.
Active learner.
Well, one really effective method is to become a sort of collocation detective.
Okay.
Start noticing them. Pay attention when you're reading or listening, and then record them. Maybe keep a dedicated collocation journal, if that helps.
A journal.
Yeah. When you find a new one, maybe in a book, a conversation, watching a film, jot it down. And crucially, write down an example sentence that shows how it's used in context.
Ah, so it's about seeing them in action, not just the pair itself.
Exactly. That context is key. Personal engagement with the language, seeing how you might use it, makes a huge difference for actually remembering it.
That makes sense. What else?
Another vital strategy is just immerse yourself in authentic English as much as you possibly can.
So real-world stuff.
Yeah, don't just rely on textbooks or learning materials. Read news articles online, listen to podcasts, like this one. Watch shows or movies in English. And while you're doing that, pay close attention to those word partnerships that seem to jump out at you.
Good point. So, okay, while we're listening or reading all this authentic stuff, what should our focus be? Just noticing them.
Noticing is the first step, but then try to be a bit more active. When you spot a common pairing, maybe you could highlight it mentally or even physically if you're reading.
Okay.
Then try a little mental exercise later. If you saw heavy rain, maybe cover up heavy and try to recall what adjective usually goes with rain in that context.
Ah, like a mini quiz for yourself.
Exactly. That active recall is incredibly powerful for strengthening those neural connections, for making it stick.
That sounds like a great way to test yourself on the go. What about actually using them in our own speaking and writing? Passive knowledge isn't enough.
Absolutely crucial. Passive recognition is good, but it won't make you fluent. You have to make a conscious effort to create your own sentences using the new collocations you've learned.
Make them personal.
Yes, try to make them relevant to your own life, your interests, your work. That makes them more memorable. And even better, try to actually weave them into conversations. If you're practicing with a language partner or even just talking to yourself, try role-playing scenarios where you can naturally use these specific combinations.
Role-playing. That sounds like a potentially fun, low-pressure way to experiment with new language without feeling silly.
It can be, yeah.
Yep.
And are there any tools or resources, things that can help us find these collocations if we're not sure?
Oh, absolutely. There are some really powerful online tools now. They're built on massive collections of real English text linguists called these corpora.
Corpora, like big databases of language.
Exactly. Huge databases showing how English is actually used in the real world. There are tools like Sketch Engine's Skell is one example people could look up, Skell.
Okay, Skell. What do they do?
Well, these tools let you type in a word, say effort, and they'll show you all the words it frequently appears with, like make an effort, considerable effort, joint effort.
You can see lists of common collocations, and often you can even see lots of example sentences showing the word used in different real contexts. It's like getting a snapshot of the word's social life,
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for understanding those subtle differences in how words are used.
It really is. It shows you the patterns. And then, for actually remembering what you've learned, you might consider using digital flashcards, especially those with what's called a spaced repetition system, or SRS.
SRS, spaced repetition.
Yeah. These apps are specifically designed to show you information, like your flashcards, at increasing intervals over time, just when you're about to forget it, basically.
Ah, so it optimizes memorization.
It's a really efficient way to move things from your short-term to your long-term memory. You could create cards with, say, the first word of a collocation, like make, and then test yourself on the second word, effort.
So it's this whole multi-pronged approach then, noticing, recording, using actively, and then reviewing systematically.
That's the ideal combination, yes.
Okay. Now, what about mistakes? What are some of the common pitfalls or traps learners fall into when they're trying to use collocations?
Oh, there are definitely a few common ones. One very frequent issue is trying to translate directly from their first language.
Ah, the L1 interference.
Exactly. What sounds perfectly natural and correct in, say, Spanish or French or Chinese can sound quite odd or just unnatural in English when translated word for word. We mentioned make a photo earlier instead of the standard English take a photo.
Right, take a photo. That's a classic example.
That's a prime example of how direct translation can lead you completely astray with verb-noun collocations.
Yeah, I've definitely heard learners say things like that, and it just flags it as non-native immediately. What's another common stumbling block?
Another one is over-relying on very general, weak intensifiers, especially the word very.
Oh, interesting.
There. I mean, saying very good or very important is grammatically perfectly fine, but native speakers often prefer to use more specific, stronger, and often more natural-sounding collocations to express that intensity.
So instead of very good,
you might hear excellent or outstanding or maybe highly effective if you're talking about a strategy. It just adds more precision, more color to your language.
So it's about choosing a word partnership that already contains that sense of intensity or specificity,
right,
rather than just adding very.
Exactly. It sounds more sophisticated, more natural. And finally, another important point is being aware that collocations can operate at different levels of formality. Register, we call it.
Formality? How so?
Well, for instance, saying grab a bite and consume a meal essentially mean the same thing, eating something.
Right.
But grab a bite is very informal, casual. Consume a meal is quite formal, almost clinical sometimes. Using a collocation that doesn't fit the social context or the situation can sound a bit off, awkward even.
That's a really crucial point about the social aspect of word choice, not just the meaning. Okay, these pitfalls are good to be aware of. Are there any maybe fun ways to practice and reinforce our knowledge of these collocations? Make it less like homework?
Absolutely. Learning should have some fun in it. You could try creating something like a collocation bingo game, especially if you're learning with others.
Collocation bingo, how would that work?
Well, you could make bingo cards, but instead of numbers, you put the second word of various collocations in the squares, like effort, cold, rain, progress. Then someone calls out the first words, make, catch, heavy, make again, and people have to find and mark the matching partner word on their card.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea for a study group or a class.
Yeah.
Makes recall interactive.
Exactly. It's a fun, low-stress way to test recall.
What about something you can do on your own?
You could try something called sentence transformation.
Okay.
Take simple sentences, maybe ones you've written yourself that use common words or maybe slightly weak synonyms. Then challenge yourself to upgrade them by using stronger, more natural collocations.
Do you give an example?
Sure. If you wrote, he was very happy when he got the news, you could try transforming it using a stronger collocation, like he was overjoyed when he heard the news, or maybe he felt a surge of joy.
I see. That really highlights how using good collocations can add richness and precision to your language, not just correctness.
It really does. And for a more in-depth kind of exploration, you could try being a corpus detective.
Using those tools you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. When you learn a new collocation that you find interesting, go to one of those online corpus tools, like Skell, and see if you can find several different examples of it being used in real sentences from different sources.
What's the benefit of that?
It helps you see its nuances, how it behaves in different kinds of writing or speech. Does it appear more in news reports, fiction, academic papers? It gives you a much deeper feel for its context.
These are some really practical, actionable ideas. Thanks. Now, for listeners who feel they're getting a handle on the basics and want to take their understanding of collocations to the next level, are there any more advanced concepts they should be aware of?
Yes, definitely. Once you start noticing collocations regularly, you can explore some fascinating related areas. One is the idea of metaphorical extension.
Metaphorical extension.
Yeah. So once you're familiar with a literal collocation, you might start to notice how that same pairing is used figuratively, metaphorically, in different contexts.
Example.
Okay, think about bright. We'll talk about a bright child, meaning intelligent, right? That's fairly literal.
Yeah.
But then we also talk about a bright idea. The idea isn't literally shining, but we've extended that collocation metaphorically to mean clever or insightful.
Ah.
Recognizing these connections deepens your understanding of how language is flexible and creative.
That's a really interesting way to think about how language grows and evolves. Very cool.
Another related concept is looking for collocational families. Yeah, these are basically groups of collocations that share a common word, often the noun or the verb. For example, think about strong. We had strong coffee, strong tea.
Right.
But you can also have a strong argument, strong evidence, a strong supporter, strong influence. Recognizing these patterns, these families built around a core word, can help you learn related collocations more efficiently.
So understanding one relationship, like strong plus drink, can give you a clue or a leg up on learning others within that same conceptual family, like strong plus abstract noun.
Exactly. You start seeing the underlying patterns. And finally, looping back to something we touched on earlier, as you become more advanced, it's really worth paying even closer attention to register awareness.
The formality thing again.
Precisely. Start to consciously note not just that words collocate, but where they collocate. Which pairings tend to be used more in formal writing or academic speech, which are more common in everyday, informal conversation. Maybe even keep a little log formal collocations here, informal ones there.
So you can fine-tune your own language.
Exactly. So you can choose the right tool for the job, linguistically speaking, and sound appropriate in different situations.
This has been incredibly informative, really useful stuff. So to try to bring it all together then, what's the main point, the key takeaway you'd really want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the absolute key takeaway is that actively learning and crucially using collocations is a really significant, powerful step towards achieving more natural sounding and genuinely fluent English.
It's more than just vocabulary lists.
So much more. It's about moving beyond just knowing the dictionary definitions of individual words and starting to understand and internalize how they actually partner up in real communication, how they dance together, if you like.
And it's an ongoing process, right? Not a one-time fix. It's about observation and practice.
Absolutely. It requires continuously, actively paying attention to the English you encounter every day, making a note, mental or written, of these word partnerships you see and hear, and this is the vital part, consciously trying to incorporate them into your own speaking and writing.
And not being afraid to try them out.
Exactly. Don't be discouraged by making mistakes initially. That's totally normal. It's a natural part of the learning process. The effort will pay off.
So maybe a little homework for everyone listening. Really tune your ears this week. Listen closely to the word combinations you hear and read in English. Think about them. Consider how consciously learning and using these pairings could actually transform your own fluency. It sounds subtle, maybe, but it's a shift in focus that can truly make a world of difference.
Well said.
Thanks so much for exploring the fascinating world of collocations with us today.